Dead No More, Patient Zero, Chapter 2, How the Dead Rose. It's been 2 days since M was bitten. We did our best to contain the situation. When M scratched that orderly, she was wrestled to the ground, and it took 3 other orderlies to subdue her. The orderly soon went through a similar transformation as M. I did notice that his transformation happened much more rapidly than hers did. After the process repeated itself with other orderlies, we quarantined anyone experiencing physical trauma due to those infected, and limited contact with them. This was perhaps one of the strangest maladies I had ever encountered. M and the 3 others were placed in a hastily constructed containment unit. They didn't speak, they didn't sleep, and they attempted to bite anyone who got near them, which made feeding next to impossible. If it wasn't happening to someone I loved, I would think it was one of the most fascinating things I had ever seen. When one of the 4 orderlies was bitten and went through his change, I witnessed at least 3 occasions when blunt force trauma was inflicted on the arms, the ribs, the neck and shoulders, and the back. And while I am certain that his bones broke under the force, he did not react. At least not in the way a normal person does. There were no screams. There was no evidence of pain registered. I deduced that if I was able to pinpoint what happened to my stepfather, I might be able to determine what has happened to each of those affected. The blood and fluids are blackened, as if they were deprived of oxygen. But if there was no oxygen, how are their motor functions continuing? M and the 3 orderlies, who the interns have been calling Dennis Knight and the Pips, have all been examined. There is no heartbeat. There is limited brain activity. And while they seem to be wheezing, they no longer seem to need oxygen to sustain themselves. Their metabolism has slowed to an unearthly rate, which begs the question, why do they attempt to bite everyone within arm's length? /P. I also learned that they consistently followed sounds and smells. It is my belief that either their eyesight has failed or is not used in their predatory conduct. They are ruled by an insatiable hunger that can never be satisfied. Today is the day of Charles' funeral service. His remains are to be turned over for cremation. I have to be strong for my mother. Life is a tricky, unpredictable bitch, but I guess that is why we all enjoy her so. Looks like rain today too. At the crematorium, the Reverend said a few words, and Charles Williams' remains slowly entered into the flames. A green hue burned brightly in the fire. It was eerie. Usually, a body burns orange as the fat is consumed. As I stared into the flames, I could have sworn that something rose from that fire, a cloud, or maybe even Charles's soul. I don't know what it was. But whatever it was, it floated out over Greater Atlanta shortly before the rain began. We left the service and took Mom home. I sat with her for a while until she fell asleep. I needed to get out and clear my head. As I was exiting the house, my childhood friend, T, was approaching the porch. His name was Tarawane, but he preferred T. We went out for drinks and I shared with him as much as I could without betraying my patient's confidence. Man, you gotta listen to me. This is happening just like it does in every horror flick I've ever seen, said T. The mad scientist, that would be you, cooks up some shit in his lab, that would be the hospital, and poof, now the dead ain't dead no mo. That would be those dead motherfuckers roaming around in that containment unit you set up. T had a way of putting things in perspective that forced me to forego scientific process and analyze through instinct. Until he said it, just then, I refused to believe that they were all dead, including M. Don't let that big brain of yours get in the way of what your eyes can see, he said. Shit, it's the end times, I tell you. If I was you, I'd find me a fortified bunker, get a whole lot of weapons and ammo and shit, a few big booty bitches, and all the food and drink I could stock. Oh, and your best bud, that would be me. Hunker down until the shit is over and party like it's 1999. We laughed and downed our drinks. Little did T know, I had already begun preparations for just such an eventuality. I left feeling better than I did when I got there. Tomorrow, I'll look at this problem with a new perspective. There has to be something that I am missing. I re-examined the tissue samples of Charles's that I still had. Mitosis was still occurring, even though the tissue was decaying. This was in fact living death. The protoenzymes I used propelled cellular and tissue animation to new, unknown heights. But what I didn't count on was the reanimation of dead cells and tissue. The mitosis has caused the cells to multiply and spread at a rapid pace. The protoenzymes had somehow mutated prior to being injected into Charles. I now have a working theory on what has happened. I set up a test with a few white rats with doses of Charles's blood. Do I really want to know what happened? No, I have to determine if I caused this. I injected test rat A, Trixie, with Charles' blood and induced cardiac arrest. I then left Trixie in the tank with test rat B, Dixie. After a few minutes, my greatest fear was realized. Trixie reanimated and began to devour Dixie. It ate the entire back half Dixie's body. What happened next was even more shocking. After another few minutes, what remained of Dixie's carcass reanimated as well. The front half of the rat's body crawled and clawed around the tank. I introduced peanut butter, cheese, and fruit, but they ignored it. I put in test rat C, Jerry, and the Trixie and Dixie devoured his body completely. All that remained was the head, and a few moments later it reanimated. I was disgusted and had the remains burned in the biohazard disposal unit. Again, an ominous green cloud rose in the containment tank and just hung there. Spectral analysis indicated that the cloud contained a mutated version of my protoenzymes. The strain must be transported through blood and saliva when the rats ate each other. I placed test rat D, Mrs. Frisbee, in the tank with the cloud. There were no adverse effects, and her appetite remained healthy for the peanut butter, cheese, and fruit. I withdrew blood from Mrs. Frisbee and sent 2 vials to the CDC. There were traces of the mutated protoenzyme in Mrs. Frisbee, but she had not succumbed to the death and reanimation. What's particularly peculiar is that the mutated protoenzymes seem to lie dormant in her. I decided to do a brain scan and a workup on Mrs. Frisbee's blood, and it was as I feared. I had missed something. I induced cardiac arrest on her and prepared for the autopsy. But minutes after she expired, Mrs. Frisbee rose again. That has to be it. If the mutated protoenzymes are present when death occurs, they become active and reanimation occurs. It's a good thing that the protoenzymes are relegated to this hospital. Oh shit. Oh shit. Oh shit. Oh shit. That cloud after Charles's cremation. I tested my blood. I was positive for the mutated protoenzymes. That means so is my mother, the crematorium staff, and anyone in the greater Atlanta area.